Okay.
On the phone with us, State Representative Mike Callton, elected in 2010 in his first term, Michigan House, to represent the residents of Berry and Ionia County. As we said earlier, our special guest is a chiropractor by trade, and served 6 years as the Berry County Commissioner. Welcome to the show again. Everyone's very excited to have you.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
I had a bunch of people wanted to ask questions about some of the things that have been going on with it. First out of the gate, when you came up with the ideas of how to move forward with the dispensary bill, what was the reaction by law enforcement community? What kind of feedback did you get from them, and what kind of feedback have you gotten, if any, from the Attorney General's office?
Well, from regular people, the feedback's pretty good. It seems to make sense that if we're going to have medical marijuana, a lot of people see where maybe the caregiver model, isn't completely adequate, that if you add the dispensary piece to it, it would be better. So I've had good response from people out there. I've heard nothing from the Attorney General's office. Something I've been saying, because I did meet with the Attorney General's office on the existing law with a dispensary that was disbanded, and the owner was put in jail for a little while, and they basically said, we look at the law as the voters passed it, and we see nothing about a dispensary or that model in there, and we're just enforcing the law. So basically, since it's my job and the legislator's job to make laws, I would expect that if we pass this as a law, then it's the Attorney General's job to enforce it.
Okay, all right, like that. Do you think it is one of the back? What has been your impression as far as in communities that have dispensaries? Is the crime rate going up or going down? Is that something that kind of weighed into any of the? I mean, is that something like a policy concept, or is that not something that is in part of the discussion or one of the talking points?
Well, I haven't heard that discussion at all. I don't know if anyone's really put out that kind of information. It's been there for a couple of years now, and I don't know if anyone's really looked at the crime rate, if it's gone up or down. I'm sure if it was going up, it seems like that people would push that as a big issue.
Right.
And if it's going down, maybe you wouldn't hear about it. But I have not seen that. I have not even heard anything about how this may be affecting the crime rate. One of the things we talked a bit about how when Prohibition ended, it really reduced the amount of, like, Mafia, Al Capone type activity, because that was a big part of what they thrived on. And it would seem to me that that for every legally acquired and legally used ounce of marijuana, then that means that someone who used to illegally sell it isn't selling it anymore.
Yes, and the thing we were talking about before is if you have any kind of establishment where someone's investing time, money as employees, training, and they're going to take care of that area. They're going to build security cameras, especially. It's going to start, putting lights out in areas that may not have been, and then someone's going to come in and put a restaurant in next door so they can feed those people, right? And that's how it happens. I mean, and that's what someone else had asked a question. These are some questions from some of the listeners. I have my own that I want to get to, but the other one is, do you perceive medical marijuana as being a business with this? Is this something that either the caregiver community can look to earn income, the existing caregiver community? Do you see those that are going to be opening them up and being the people that are running them being viable businesses that they're going to be able to earn money? And what's your perception of that?
Well, in terms of, it's kind of an interesting way to look at it. I've never looked at it that way, but I have seen where people who are caregivers were interested in building a dispensary type situation, as an extension of the caregiving they're already doing. I've also seen investors that aren't caregivers and really have nothing to do with marijuana, that just see it as a business investment and just see it as an opportunity. And I think, definitely people like that are welcome also. And, it does, create a certain economy. And then what I really like about the idea of a provisionary center, what we're calling now instead of dispensaries, is the fact that we now have a legal and accepted way to absorb overage,
Right.
overage from caregivers and such, as opposed to what happens to it now.
Right. Well, that's a good point, because I think, one of the biggest concerns amongst the medical cannabis community is, number one, that the existing caregiver patient system not be touched, affected in any way. And I think you would agree with me that the intent of this bill is not to do that in any way, correct? I mean,
now, this is like completely separate from what the voters passed. This is a separate law.
It's a separate act that would not even require
it's a separate act. Yeah, it's a separate act that I think complements that law. I think it adds an element that makes the law work better. But it does not affect that law in any way. So
it
doesn't affect the present caregiver model.
We wanted you on record on that. That's all, because there's a lot of people that are concerned. They don't, they don't know. They want to, the bare bones of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. I don't think anyone would dispute would be for a patient to grow their plants in their basement, or a caregiver to grow their plants on behalf of someone or their patients who they're connected to.
Some people are worried that local control even could actually become a problem in certain areas if it's overextended into the patient caregiver system. Do you think that that's possible with the current bill?
Say that one more time. That last sentence.
Well,
I want to make.
Your point is that this bill is to complement. It's not something that's amending the act. It's a bill that would, to be passed, it would need 50% vote because it's written not out of the act. And you're suggesting that it is supposed to complement and support the existing caregiver system, not take anything away, right? That's
No, yeah. If you're a caregiver, this does not take anything away. If you're growing your own, or if you're a caregiver for 5 people and you're growing for them, this does not affect you at all, except maybe there might be a competition factor. This is a separate critter called the Provisionary Center.
There's a couple of acts inadvertently in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act that have been overridden. Probably want to clear that up so you don't run into a conflict later where it requires a 75%.
All right, so knowing that to be the case, because that has been one of the primary concerns, and I can tell you that, as a lawyer, and the last 3 or 4 years, but not so much in the last year and a half, there was many people that had never interacted with marijuana before that would take their last $5,000 or $10,000 and want to, invest and do something, and be part of what they perceived as an industry where there was really nothing else for them, and I feel for those people wanting to be part of it and want to get, and there isn't a lot of clarity. And I think, one of the questions even that the Court of Appeals in the McQueen case, there's language in there where, they don't know what to do about the sales thing. What's a sale? They can't find it in the medical use definition. We can't. I think there's even some language like we can't, put into the act language that doesn't exist. We don't, legislate from the bench, even though they do all the time. But they were, sometimes that can be seen as calling for the legislature to do something. Give us some guidance on where the money is going to go, how's it going to be collected, and who's going to get it, in terms of these things, and how is it going to be described. So how do you see that playing out? Is that something that's going to be left to the local communities as far as whether, how you're going to describe the transaction? Are they going to be sales? Are they going to be taxed at a local level, state level, federal level? How do you foresee that playing out?
Yeah, I know we had a discussion because I got a lot of, it was amazing. I talked to conservative farmers in my area, and they said, yeah, grow it and tax it, and these are really conservative people. I live in a conservative area. And we looked at taxing, but it posed a problem at the state level, and so we figured, well, if the business is viable and it makes a profit, then they pay their profit tax. People don't pay a tax on medicine, and if this is medicine, why would that be treated differently? And so, and plus, we're not providing, we kind of wrote this in a way where the state's not providing any service. Like if we wanted to maybe require testing, but then that would make we'd have to form a department of testing. which we didn't want to do. Now, if the locals want to require testing, then they can make that arrangement. If they see it's costing them money to oversee this and test, then they can legitimately ask for some type of a tax. But we're leaving a lot of this up to local control. There will be no state tax other than if you're a business making a profit, you'll pay a profit on your business.
I want to go back to 1 second because I know this kind of the way I'm perceiving this, and I'm trying to be objective in my questions, but I think I already know the answer. But one of the things about the concerns of any kind of dispensaries and how they're going to be supported, how is the medicine going to get there, is that if you have large-scale grows, you're going to draw the federal government in. It's always going to be an issue, right? So one of the things that I've seen about your bill in understanding that it was going to get the supply from the existing Michigan medical cannabis caregiver community is that it kept the supply still at like a very small local level, right? I mean, the people that are still going to the basements have an opportunity to take their overages up there, and that was one of the things that you were talking about, the ability to have a place for those things to go, for them to be brought in.
Well, and it enhances, I think, the caregiver model because it provides a legal place for the overage. And I'm not sure what the heck happens with the overage now. I'm not going to get into that, but
there's a place now.
The place now where the overage can be sold, and then the overage then is whatever the dispensary may repackage it, may do different things with it, and then they resell it. And one of the inspirations of this, I did tour six dispensaries. Some aren't in business anymore. But I saw 3 of them that I thought were the models that I thought these people really, I think, have the right idea. But then I saw 3 others that I was really thought were horrendous, and these shouldn't be around. And in some cases, I really just thought that they were an extension of illegal drug activity. They didn't seem very serious about what they were doing with the marijuana as a medicine. I almost seemed more recreational. They were smoking there. Whereas the ones I liked, they did not smoke there.
Right.
And they were professional. And that's why, I don't mind seeing people come into this. Maybe they might be caregivers that evolve into maybe a provisionary center, or maybe business investors that may have, some investment money and they want to come in as professionals, as business people, and see this as an opportunity. I think you'll see both kinds of people.